We can see similar arguments in three more thinkers: Frederick Jameson, Jean Beaudrillard, and David Harvey. They all put emphasis on the culture of our postmodern consumer society too, that it's obsessed with image, with shallowness, with a lack of depth. I want to quickly go through each one because there are similarities in them that might help us understand what unifies many of the critiques, and so we can then return to think about some better solutions maybe. After that, we'll turn to quickly what they might have left out, what criticisms of them there are, before trying to think of consumerism in a new way. Jean Beaudrillard published The Consumer Society in 1970. I love this quote that really encapsulates the FOMO of consumerism and how forward-looking Beaudrillard really was. He wrote that consumerism came with a revival of a universal curiosity in respect of cooking, culture, science, religion, sexuality, etc. Try Jesus runs an American slogan. You have to try everything, for consumerist man is haunted by the fear of missing something, some form of enjoyment or other. You never know whether a particular encounter, a particular experience, Christmas in the Canaries, eel in whiskey, the Prado, LSD, Japanese-style lovemaking, will not elicit some sensation. It's no longer desire, or even taste, or a specific inclination that are at stake, but a generalised curiosity, driven by a vague sense of unease. Beaudrillard was primarily concerned with image and language, the signs of consumer advertising and commercial speak. He talked about the dizzying abundance of those signs and argued that we were so saturated in the language of consumerism that the language dominated our lives more than any other way of communicating with each other. He wrote, "There is, all around us today, a kind of fantastic conspicuousness of consumption and abundance, constituted by the multiplication of objects, services and material goods, and this represents something of a fundamental mutation in the ecology of the human species." For Marx, under capitalism, what he called the use value of an object, the real value of what it's worth to me and us societally to use this mug, for example, had been replaced in our heads with an exchange value. We think instead about how much an item is worth economically. For example, someone might like this mug because it cost a lot of money and has diamonds implanted in the rim, not because they like it aesthetically or think it's the perfect size. Fetishizing commodities in this way also hides the social labour, the real work, the real lives that went into making the object. We simply think in market terms. On top of use value and exchange value, Beaudrillard added a third value, sign value. We value things not by how useful they are, or even how much we can get for them economically, but what they signify to others socially. I might like this mug, for example, because it's a fashionable Ted Baker mug, and that confers some kind of social status. It's all logos. He argued that this sign value was like a hidden language that we all unconsciously speak. We live in a network of brand names, consumer images, movie stars with new shoes, and social status that depends largely on where we live, what we own, what our position is at work, and what we wear. And all of these things have a direct effect on what we value, what we desire, and what these things say about us to others. Beaudrillard called this network a code, and he said that we were more concerned with the code
than we were with reality, the real.
He sees this consumer code as being like a language that speaks to all of us. We don't desire new things at random. Desires must be created, coded. They must fit into a system of fantasy. New goods must somehow be inserted into the existing order of consumption. Our desires aren't just biological, personal, individual, or based on use value, usefulness, or exchange value, that this is a gold-plated mug and so it will be worth more, but are socially constructed too. We are coded to desire socially, depending on others, depending on our social context, and this affects us. This determines how and what we think.
Our needs aren't rational, nor are they even about maximising utility. Social power rules. We are socialised, culturalised, consumerised by an abundance of messages, flashing lights, screens and magazines.
What drives this? Well, Beaudrillard returns in many ways to Veblen's theory of conspicuous consumption. We want to distinguish ourselves, set ourselves apart socially. He calls it the dialectic of conformism and originality. We both want to conform, be part of the pack, and be original, stand outside of the pack. There is, he says, quote, a need of the individual to differentiate himself as one more element in the repertoire of human needs, which it sees as alternating with the opposite need to conform. Manufacturers want to fit these new desires, this code, into our lives without continuously upending their whole manufacturing lines. Modern furniture is designed to be flexible, mobile, interchangeable, without depth, so that it can fit together in different spaces and be moved around easily. Everything is in neutral colours and, like IKEA, fits together like a puzzle, like a code. Tradition, uniqueness, odd shapes, personal history is no longer important in the home. It's about flatness, neutralness. Every house, every home, exterior and interior, looks the same. Apple also resembles this, functions with the same logic as IKEA. You're sold a new Mac and now you need a new iPad, iPhone, iWatch, AirPods. And if you don't have Apple, you need one because you might be left out. You can't use iChat and you can't send photos easily to your friends. The consumer code draws you in. If not, you're ostracised. Anticipating Apple, Beaudrillard says that few objects today are offered alone, without a context of objects which speaks them. Shop windows, adverts, brand names all come together in a cohesive vision. Beaudrillard is famously pessimistic about this state of affairs. He argues we're so soaked in this type of culture that we can no longer discover our true, authentic needs underneath. Everything is alienated because everything can be exchanged away. Nothing is transcendental, everything is pastiche. The car advert relies on the sunglasses. The sunglasses are advertised with someone on holiday relaxing by the pool on a holiday package trip. The dream is a holiday in Bermuda because that's where Brad Pitt went and that's what he talked about on a chat show. All of these phenomena build, construct and direct our desires. But true meaning, he says, what we really need is lost. He uses the example of kitsch products to illustrate what he means.
Kitsch goods are everywhere. They're trashy objects, folksy knickknacks, souvenirs, he says. But they're shallow imitations. They're no longer connected to the real reason, the original reason the piece of art or the historical landmark was produced. Kitsch is the ultimate in artificial desire.
He writes, kitsch can be anywhere, in the detail of an object or in the plan of a new residential area, in an artificial flower or in a photo novel. It can be best defined as a pseudo-object, or, in other words, a simulation, a copy, an imitation, a stereotype, as a dearth of real signification and a superabundance of signs. The kitsch object is a sign. It's not about the object. It signifies that you've been somewhere, been on holiday to Rome and seen the Colosseum, or London and seen Big Ben. They are just, quote, part of the package, the constellation of accessories by which the socio-cultural standing of the average citizen is determined. Pop art functions in a similar way. It's all surface. It uses the signifiers of the world around us and slaps it together, ignoring the true, deep meaning that's been ignored and hidden. He says, whereas all art up to pop was based on a depth vision of the world, pop regards itself as homogeneous with this imminent order of signs, homogeneous with their industrial mass production, and hence with the artificial manufactured character of the whole environment.